What even was that episode?
Crap.
I wouldn't call it... well, I mean, it's crap in some ways.
It was a bad Spike episode. That should speak enough.
Yeah. Everyone keeps saying, oh, Spike episodes are bad. Yeah, it's kind of... well, I mean, this one...
Yeah, let me just say something out of the way. Why should we expect, basically, certain episodes starring particular characters to automatically suck? Yes, I know, Spike episodes haven't had the best of track records, but there have been some good Spike episodes.
There have been great Spike episodes. There's been Inspiration Manifestation, Secret of My Access was good.
Yeah. Heck, depending on your point on Crusher games, he's probably one of the best Spike episodes out there.
Heck, and I even like Dragon Quest. I don't really see the argument against it.
I can see where people are bothered by it, but that somehow doesn't seem to bother me that much.
Yeah.
This episode...
This episode just kind of like adds more fuel to the Spike episode suck kind of stereotype.
Or the impression that the writers don't even like Spike and just see it as nothing more as a cosmic plaything. Yeah. And that's kind of the funny thing. I mean, we've seen Spike be the butt of all jokes, but
even in Spike at Your Service, it wasn't really Spike getting screwed over by the universe. It's just
he was screwing himself over because he was acting like a full-out idiot.
Yeah, but now we get the other end of the stick, in which Spike is pretty much placed in a situation where he cannot be the winner no matter what.
Yep, pretty much. In basic synopsis of this episode, there's a big old grand summon in Caroline where police from all across Crusher are gathering to celebrate how great Crusher is. And Twilight was up for...
Twilight's pretty much overworked.
Been awake for like 3 days,
yeah.
And she needs rest. So Kane tells Spike to make sure Twilight gets rest.
Yeah.
No matter what happens.
So the beginning part of the episode is basically like, oh, it's just gonna be a whole episode of Spike running around making sure the entire town just shuts up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, that plot's not really that interesting, but whatever.
Well, no, actually, you know what was weird about the episode was? I kind of thought basically it was going to lead into something sort of like this. Like, the way, funny thing about the episode, like, there was no promotion for this thing whatsoever.
Yeah.
Every episode has at least had some sort of promotion. This episode, like, we had no, like, spoiler clips.
They overhyped the crap out of the last episode, and then they have nothing for this one. I don't get it.
Maybe they knew this episode was gonna suck. They were like,
so let's just slide it under the radar, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I mean, it kind of did.
Okay, the only sort of promotion it got was maybe like some commercial, like some cameos in commercials.
There was like a 30-second like Discovery Family trailer, and that's the only thing I saw, and that barely told us anything, because even that has a couple clips in a couple different other episodes. Like, I think the next episode that's going to be airing.
Yeah, it's going to be a Pinkie Pie episode.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's much better than what we got for this episode. Yeah, it's clearly... This is going to be a clearly negative review, which is pretty rare for us, since we're usually positive both.
Yeah, but... I mean, this is really the first dud of Season 5, and...
I think it's really the first actual flat-out dud episode we kind of dud together. I mean, you've probably done some previous episodes, like, before
I did Rainbow Falls alone, and that was probably the last dud of this caliber.
Yeah, I have to admit...
I'd say the episode...
I haven't seen an episode kind of as poorly played out since
Rainbow Falls.
Yeah. And I haven't seen a Spike episode this bad since... Well, not quite as bad, but kind of close to Spike at Your Service.
No, I wouldn't say it's close, but...
Well,
from a technical standpoint, it's probably the worst structured episode in the show so far.
I don't know if I can really, agree with you, but the episode... Just... Why? What do we really gain from this episode anyway?
Well, it was at least semi-entertaining. I'll give it that.
Okay, I'll make it. for all this episode's faults, it did have a little bit of nice things, hidden within it. It's just, you gotta really pick this episode apart to find the good stuff.
Yeah. So it's not unwatchable by any means. It's not like that bad. But
No, if you're not really comfortable with Spike being the butt of all jokes, this episode's not gonna help you that much.
Yeah. I mean, I could sit through it, and I can still.
I sat through Spike Eater service in the Spike.
I can still go back to it.
Yeah.
Well, I can't go back to Rainbow Falls, but I'd say, just from technical standpoint to enjoyment, just in general ratio, I'd say this is about equal to Rainbow Falls. Like, I can still watch this, but I will say that this episode is completely a mess.
Alright, okay, let's talk about the actual good things about this episode before we pretty much tear this one a new one, which we're kind of going to be
I can't really think of
Well,
what's good about it.
What about the really interesting background points we got, like the really unique designs?
Oh yeah, well some of those were interesting, and there was a griffin.
Yeah. It seemed kind of tolerant.
Kind of out of nowhere though, like there's just a griffin here, but no other species of anything.
Yeah, it's just a lot of really interesting ponies. In fact, the weird thing is, of all the weird cameos, there was cameos from some of the IDW staff, Andy Price and Katie Cook's Pony Sonas. That's kind of alarming for some people who...
But they're at least interesting.
Well, at least they're in the background. They don't have any real point to them, other than just their background characters. And honestly, if you didn't know who Andy Price or Katie Cook were, or even knew what their Pony Sonas looked like, you probably would just assume, those are just some ponies in the background.
Yeah. There was the return of Fancy Pants, right?
Yeah, Fancy Pants came back, and apparently this episode kind of really builds up that he has some sort of, importance, and kind of, he kind of, sort of runs the place himself.
Yeah, he runs a lot of the stuff around Canberra, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the background ponies I actually sort of like the most for her. Well, the Minneapolis and Manhattan, ponies who showed up.
They had a lot of diversity, especially in their accents.
They're really playing up the whole accents. Well, I can tell the Manhattan. Well, then again, I'm not really familiar with
Wisconsin ponies.
Well, I'm not really familiar with that sort of thing, but I can definitely tell that basically, and pony was basically, we're playing up this New York accent,
And then there was Wisconsin pony.
It was a very nice hat.
Yeah. So aesthetically, alright. Aesthetically, this episode is okay. Technically, this episode isn't good. So, I just want to make that distinction.
Okay, there was another funny thing I actually kind of did. It was this one scene where basically Fluffy Clouds from Tanks from the Memories comes back, and basically I kind of found his patheticness actually pretty hilarious. Oh no, my friend took my seat! My friendship is ruined! You do realize a friendship is going to be ruined by someone just taking your seat. Oh yeah, that's kind of silly.
Spike understands friendship better than the entirety of Griffin's done, but...
Alright, what else?
I got nothing. The statue looked okay, and Spike didn't eat it.
Oh yeah,
I was kind of expecting there to be a thing where he's like,
I want to eat that statue.
Yeah.
Look at it.
They had it for 3 seconds and then didn't do anything with it, and that's kind of different and okay.
Mm.
Oh yeah, and the last 5 seconds of the episode was pretty funny with the cutaway gag.
Oh, okay.
Why does the show do such great cutaway gags?
I don't know.
Is that just the thing with cutaway gags in general? They just make everything funnier by default?
Well, yeah, even if you know what the outcome is going to be, you could just still imagine basically what will happen when you don't see it. Anything could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm kind of reaching for things to say. I'm good about it.
Let's see, I think I can say one more. Okay, this is a little interesting thing. Apparently Equestria is popular enough to have, over, 50 cities or 50 states, something like that. So...
Delegates from a bunch of cities around the...
Yeah, and... Yeah, this special event's kind of the largest gathering of sorts for, a really long time, I guess.
Yeah.
it had some nuggets of nice things, but
oh wait, what else? No, I forget.
Yeah, is this the point where basically we stop being positive about the episode and start going all Tommy over Digibrony, whoever, negative?
Well, this isn't nitpicks. This is, like, legitimate problems now.
Alright.
So, this episode is basically... well, I mean, what they're trying to set it up as is Spike goes on a power trip, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I think kind of
that's what they were trying to set it up as, I could tell, but...
even from the description about the episode, like, promoting, like, Spike, becomes power hungry after acting in Twilight's place for reasons.
Yeah, but we kind of had that lesson already in Secret of My Access.
Well, that's what Spike,
that was with greed more than power, though. There's a kind of distinction.
Well, then again, the whole greed thing with Spike is more of a biological thing rather than just basically personality aspect. Spike, he's not natural. He's not like greedy as a character, but it's just greedy by nature because dragons.
Yeah.
And they're hoarding of treasures and various gems and all
but
that.
This is pretty much he's placed in a position of power, and
supposed power by Cadence, who tells Spike to keep an eye on Twilight while she's resting.
So Spike eventually starts making decisions in Twilight's place because people want to see Twilight. Twilight's asleep, so Spike is basically like, "What do I do? Do I wake her up and tell her to talk to these ponies, or should I deal with this myself?" So he decides
let's really get into that sort of thing. Like, why was
that's still great intentions though.
Well, yeah,
but
you don't want to wake someone up. I mean, it's common courtesy, really.
But as we see later on in the episodes, his decisions kind of turn back on him.
Well, yeah, they eventually come back to bite him. Let's see. There's a couple of things that he has to deal with that basically there's no good outcome from basically just ignoring the problem. Yeah. There's these top-heavy trees that can fall over and cause some damage. Yeah, you don't want to have something like that happen. And there's gonna be a pipe burst.
Yeah.
And Spike says, "No, you can't fix this problem. You'll wake up Twilight." I really want to get into the whole Twilight thing. Basically, there's a lot of things that happen in this episode. Nothing seems to wake up Twilight. In fact, what's really the consequence of waking up Twilight all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, she needs her sleep, and she's gonna go pretty much insane if she doesn't, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, but we don't really see any possible repercussions of Twilight being woken from her sleep or something like that.
Well, I mean, she just gets more tired, I guess. And...
Yeah, but then again, Spike's trying to keep Twilight asleep.
Well, I mean, that's what he was told to do, so he's gonna do it.
Yeah, but if you think about Spike, one thing is, he did the one thing he was told to do by Cadence. Keep Twilight asleep.
Yeah.
Problem is, the universe decides to punish him for doing that sort of thing.
For trying to keep Twilight asleep. It's just a whole mess of what's the episode pinning the blame on? And
is it everyone else for making the noise, or is it Spike for trying to make all these decisions on his behalf? That's beyond his control.
Yeah, it's like what are Celestia, Luna, and Cadence doing?
Oh yeah, let's talk about the princesses.
Can't they help make decisions?
In fact, as much as I like Cadence, I'm gonna actually have to shit her down for once. What the hell, Cadence? What were you up to this whole episode?
Hey, this is the first time that Cadence has shown up and had an actual active role in an episode, and she hasn't been in distress. But the distress is put on Spike.
And Cadence turns into Celestia.
Cadence is... Yeah, it would have really fit a little bit more if it was Celestia talking to Spike rather than Cadence. And I know it's Cadence and Spike kind of have a
thing going on because, they kind of were responsible for saving the Crystal Empire.
And they are kind of close that way, and not really Celestia with Spike. But it really does seem like Celestia is speaking through Cadence, though, and it just seems kind of out of place. For Cadence.
From what I understand, Cadence blasted Spike for making all these bad decisions. What is she doing about it? Okay, the only thing she actually does is fix that pipe bursting when it happens with light version of one of Sombra's crystal spells. How she kind of makes crystals appear from the...
Yeah.
Okay, that was pretty cool, and not really how that plays if you think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
because those crystals are evil by nature.
Oh well. But yeah, it's like, seriously, what are the other three princesses doing to help the situation? Are they just overseeing everything? You could have like, you could have at least one person standing in for. You could have at least one of the princesses standing in for Twilight.
Yeah, I mean, come on, couldn't okay, how would like Cadence actually starts taking over?
And if you can't, that just pretty much.
Yeah, you know what this is? You know what this is? Lazy writing. Yeah, they. Well,
This isn't really lazy. It's like they came up with a concept with no winning goal. Like, no matter what you did with it, you can't possibly.
Well, yeah, Spike needs to...
unless they did something with the princesses.
Yeah,
but that would kind of defeat the purpose of like what the episode was trying to do, I guess.
Mm. In fact, it's also pretty irresponsible of the other three for just basically, oh great, one of us is unable to do all this important stuff, and we're just going to leave all this important stuff on to someone who's clearly not capable of, carrying out these important tasks.
Yeah, Spike can pretty much protect Twilight. Yeah, but who's going to be the stand-in for Twilight's decision-making?
Yeah, there's this thing called chain of command. You three heard of it before? Might want to start using it more. Well, then again, we've seen basically without any of the princesses available, Equestria is pretty much useless without any sort of worthwhile direction. Heck, the Royal Guard can make commands on its own without a princess telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff doesn't even happen in real life. I mean, like I said, there's this thing called chain of command. It's basically like this giant tier of people who have some sort of power and authority, and they are responsible for these certain amount of tasks that they need to carry out. And they've also got to have, expectations and plans in case someone's not available in position. Like, say, an important political leader dies suddenly in office or gets assassinated. Who's going to fill in for the leader? If there's no one's going to fill in, I mean, you're going to end up with a power struggle on your hands.
Yeah. Well, and we'll add that to the fact that, but yeah, pretty much the universe is turning against Spike. It's like Spike is doing all he can to pretty much help the situation, but all it's doing is making it hurt more, and it just really makes it feel like, is Spike at fault here? No, he's not at fault, but the episode's really trying to make it seem like Spike's at fault. I mean, until Spike does get a tiny bit power hungry for what less than 2 minutes?
Yeah, the whole I thought the whole Spike was just gonna start doing a bunch of things on Twilight's behalf, and then he's like, oh wait a second,
and that would have been,
I have connections to princesses. I could use that to get away with pretty much whatever I want,
and that would have been entirely different because then he would be at fault.
I mean, yeah, why wasn't the episode?
But like a minute and a half, 2 minutes does not add up to Spike is at fault. It's like.
In fact, he hardly even does anything pretty much like glorifying his own ego when he decides to power trip himself.
Yeah, it's like, what does he do? Like,
oh, just get some fancy rubies just get some fancy gems to munch on and a massage, and a painting of himself.
And that's really abuse of power. I don't really see. It's like, yeah, that's.
Well, that's hardly enough to count. I wouldn't count.
I wouldn't call that really bad. It is misuse of power, but it's not really doing anything malicious.
Well, alright, let's see. Why wasn't the episode just basically, like Spike, is kind of like feeling is kind of feeling like he's being overshadowed, too much, and he realizes I have connections to the princesses. Why not build up my own ego? Why wasn't the episode kind of just basically Spike pretty much decides to turn himself into some sort of like godlike figure, basically this cult of personality of sorts.
Yeah, and then the whole situation goes into shambles beneath him, and he does nothing to fix that. That would have made for a pretty fun and interesting.
That's
what I think the episode was trying to go for, but it didn't even go for that. It just took it in a completely different direction and was like, nope, Spike is the universe's cosmic plaything for a couple hours. and
everything goes to crap because Spike tries to do something nice. In fact, there's another thing that's really bugged me about this episode. Like the whole trees being top heavy and stuff. they have some really weird flowers with really specific qualities to them. I mean, it's not just any other typical flowers, like, and Spike happens to be allergic to these flowers. Well, it's not like some typical flower that you'd be like allergic to. I mean, I'm kind of allergic to holly myself, but I just kind of get that from my dad, and all I just get is kind of like a little bit of a rash. But like, yeah, you know what these flowers are? I think they call them dragon sneeze flowers.
Yeah.
And they're exactly what the name sound. They make dragons have like really bad allergy fit and start sneezing terribly. Okay, why did they invent a type of flower just to have Spike just be conveniently allergic to them if he's anywhere close to them?
Can't you just have pollen or something?
Can't you just use like any other kind of flower? I mean,
instead of making the episode feel like it's really attacking Spike with like these plants that is like, yes, he's going to sneeze by these plants.
Well, yeah, we get it. People have allergies, and there's nothing we can do about it. But why have flowers that only dragons are allergic to? Why couldn't it just be any other kind of flower? I mean, that would help the whole relatability. Like, oh yeah, I have allergy problems too. I can feel for Spike at this moment.
Yeah, but it's like, it's so particular, and it's like, it really just adds on to the cosmic plaything kind of feel the episode had.
Well, then again, this isn't the first time we've seen some weird flowers with really arbitrary properties to them. I mean, there was the Poison Joe back in season 1.
Yeah. And then
but that was played more for comedy. This is more pretty much...
And whatever that one flower was in the Cutie Pox, whichever one that was. The truth flowers something.
Oh yeah, the truth flower.
So, whatever its name was, I can't remember.
Oh, okay. You kind of established that this fact that Crochet has some weird plant life that doesn't exist in our world. But
yeah.
Why the heck invent something just to basically have Spikey tortured by it? I mean, how can we really feel for his suffering when basically we can't... There's no such... I mean, there's no, like, one kind of flower...
If it was, like, any kind of pollen, like regular kind of real-life pollen tree, then yes, I can understand that. But whatever. I think we made our point with that. But
and of course, despite making all these decisions, trying to guess basically what Twilight does, apparently it all escalates to basically nothing more but just chaos, and the whole town decides to pretty much riot against Twilight, thinking this is all of her terrible ideas, and they're pretty much gonna.
And then the episode's like, put the blame back on Spike. When there's really nothing for him to have blame for.
The
ending is...
Yeah.
The ending goes in a completely different direction.
I think they even try to railroad the whole episode. So we're basically this really crappy moral that doesn't even apply to the episode. Okay, the moral itself isn't that bad, but it's a broken moral. I mean, it's a broken ace, according to TV tropes. It has nothing really to do with it.
It sets up for a moral, doesn't even do that moral, and then switches to a completely different moral in the end, like in the last 3 minutes or so.
It's all about diversity, all these different characters.
And where did we see that in the episode? We didn't. A lot of ponies are there, but we didn't really connect to any of them.
Yeah, that moral would have mattered more if that was the focus. Like, it was about them. Like,
but that's pretty much Slice of Life's moral switched into this episode.
Yeah, we're using the same moral, except the moral...
We had that moral last week, and it worked there.
Well, then again, that moral was more of a meta sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it did have meta properties, but it also worked in the context of Slice of Life. It doesn't work here.
Yes, this is... You know what the actual moral should have been? Like, don't bite off more than you can... you can chew.
Yeah, and that would have worked if they had actually done that in the episode, rather than Spike just getting pushed around by the universe. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, particularly when people see Spike, suffer abuse, they get really annoyed. And people particularly just pretty much said, that's it, we're going to Twitter and going to annoy the heck out of the staff.
But surprisingly, it was fairly civil for once.
Yeah,
fairly civil.
fact,
I mean, you'll still get those people like screaming at them and like mindlessly, but
yeah, like when people attack Amy Keene Rogers for Pinkie Pie and Philly Vanilli.
Yeah. I still think that that's probably the worst character episode, like kind of thing. Like Pinkie Pie was the worst character in the show for one episode, but like even I don't really spew hate because of that.
Well, no, okay, I'm gonna maybe
not caustic hate, like just regular.
Like you should get fired. I hope you die. Something disgusting like that.
Not like that. That's not the way to hold a discussion at all.
I mean, yeah, the writers done goofed, and it was pretty much at this point.
Yeah, but at least this time it was pretty much at least having a regular discussion. Like okay, you know what, writers, you need to stop with the.
You gotta stop with this whole thing. I mean, we've seen this thing before, and you're just doing the same thing over and over again, and we're just getting sick of it. Can you?
And it really feels
try
like
something new with Spike instead of, I don't know, making him your cosmic plaything or something.
Like Spike just runs into yet another another stream of bad luck. And it's basically
okay.
Like, the writers and Big Jim did say that he will consider.
Well, funny considering he was actually mostly involved with this episode and Jason Thiessen as well. But the writer itself was
and the new writer was Neil last name I can't pronounce.
Yeah. From the stuff he's worked on,
Neil Duveau, I think. Something I don't know.
We're not gonna go do a Mr. Enter and dox the person or something. That's just irresponsible. Like
a what? Dox him? Oh. With the SpongeBob writers, is that what that was?
Yeah, that was that was just a long time ago. We're not gonna do something like that. Why would you do that? I mean, as much as I hate the IDW staff, I don't want to wish
hate them silently or hold a civil discussion with them.
I'd rather just hate their work rather than them. I mean, that's really what we should. That's probably more reasonable.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, he did just come from Fish Hooks and Johnny Test, and those shows aren't really regarded as the greatest things ever, far from it.
And it doesn't help that basically he's writing for this show and really fickle fandom of all things.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's pretty much a learning experience, but still, you gotta proofread your freaking episodes, because this was just a mess.
It pretty much was a mess, and it's an episode I'm not gonna look back on fondly.
I won't look back on fondly. I can still look back on it, and I can still watch it. Like this is an episode that's more interestingly bad than anything.
Yeah, I wasn't like outright insulted watching this episode. I was more like just like disappointed.
Like
you were kind of doing fine this season, and you just sink to this kind of low.
Yeah, but this is one dud in 10 episodes. I'd say 1 out of 10 is definitely good, or at least 1 out of 9 since we have the 2-parter.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'd say 1 out of 9 is still good.
Well, I'll say it's not that special as Appaloosa's Most Wanted seems. It's not as painful to sit through as Princess Spike.
No, it's still a good episode. It's just kind of, it's like it's an episode, but this episode is technically the worst I've ever seen. I can't really think of any episode that even comes close. Like even
pretty much everything.
Even Mare Duel had a structure and didn't stray from that structure much. It kind of messed. It kind of messed up the structure, but it didn't swap it for anything.
Well, then again, it had an idea what it wanted to do. Pretty much teach Raymond Archer a lesson in humility. Problem is,
it was executed poorly.
Yeah, that was why people blasted the episode. The high heck.
This episode was just
a mess that
It was just created poorly.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna say.
And it's supposed its saving grace of a moral didn't even help the episode. And just like, did you? What were you guys thinking? What were you even trying to accomplish with this episode?
Yeah. So, this is not really so much a bad episode as it is a lesson in how not to write an episode.
Yeah. You gotta.
So I can't really be too mad at this. Like I'm not even mad at this.
I'm just miffed we had.
I'm just bewildered more than anything.
Well, I'm just a little miffed that we just had a bad episode after, consistent goodness for a while.
Yeah, but like I said, it's one bad dud in the midst of pretty much what's otherwise a great season.
Well, hopefully next week and later on we'll see much more promising things, and we're gonna need a good episode after.
We have a Pinkie Pie episode that could pretty much go any way it wants to. I mean, it's Pinkie Pie.
Well, yeah, but fortunately she's been pretty good this season, so there's still hope for her.
She's been better this season. I still wouldn't say that she's anything great, but she's been better.
Mm-hmm.
In The Lost Treasure of Griffinstone, she was. I think she was pretty good in Lost Treasure of Griffinstone. I think she was. I think she's generally been pretty good since Sweet Castle. I think.
Well, what about the season 5 premiere?
Yeah, she was pretty good in that. I think Sweet Castle is just the kind of low point this season because, I mean, they were all kind of idiots in that episode, and I mean that's kind of what they were going with. But yeah.
Well, yeah, they pretty much fixed the problem before the problem was pretty much the resolution.
Yeah. So I can't even be mad at that. So who knows? This might be Pinkie Pie regressing once again, or it could be one of Pinkie Pie's best outings ever. Maybe.
No. Here's the thing. I don't want to look at every episode and expect it to suck. I mean.
No, I'm not expecting it to suck.
I mean, that's a terrible way to think about stuff. Like, if you expect everything to suck, you don't have that good of an opinion. You don't have a good view on life yourself, right?
I'm just saying the episode can, from what it seems, it can go pretty much any way it wants to. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, even with the little bits of things, I really don't have a clear picture of what they're up to.
Yeah, it's like. We had pretty much a clear picture up until Slice of Life, which we had the clearest freaking picture ever. It's like, look at this episode, and then they went silent. Absolutely silent. And it's still been silent. They had one promo for the next episode, and that's it. And that's even mixing parts of other promos into it. And it's like, I have no idea what they're trying to tell us. So, at least now they're trying to surprise us.
Oh, good, yeah. I mean, you don't want to give away all your best bits before you give out. I mean, then you're
You can release one promo, at least.
Yeah, like, why don't you shower us with, like, all these ridiculous expectations in order to...
Give us a 30-second preview. That's all we need.
Yeah, dude, don't, like spoil, basically, like, a fifth of...
Magical mystery character.
In fact, don't even give away the resolution before the episode even airs. Otherwise...
At least Slice of Life didn't do that. Right?
I mean, heck, with even all the craziness Slice of Life was pointing out, I didn't expect a lot of the things to happen in that episode.
Yeah. They gave us some pretty spectacular stuff, like from the promos, but even then, they made sure to hide the even more spectacular stuff.
Okay, they pretty much showed us what we kind of wanted to see from it, and then the surprises are the things we weren't expecting.
Yeah, it's like,
oh, Lyra and Baba and their friends. Well, guess what, sweetie? Baba's actually a secret agent.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and that's
or the gummy monologue. Or
yeah,
the toy game.
Whatever. Toy game. So yeah, I got nothing. We done?
Yeah, well, I'm done ripping this episode apart. Bad freaking.
So it's like an episode that's technically bad, but I can still go back to. So, no, technically the worst, but I can still go back to it. I'm gonna say, I don't know.
I'd be hard pressed to even go back to this episode, if anything.
I don't think I can. I don't think I can possibly give it a 7 out of 10 or higher. I'm gonna say 6.5 out of 10. But like about the same as Rainbow Falls is right now. I'll still say that this is better than Rainbow Falls.
Yeah, Rainbow Falls.
But more enjoyable rather. Than Rainbow Falls.
Well, the thing about Rainbow Falls is the episode was done on arrival. This episode had promise, but it completely went down the drain.
So
by self-defeating itself with its own
multiple
flashbacks.
times. In every way. Just by existing, it defeats its own purpose. But yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, I'm done.
See you next week.
For hopefully something better.
Maybe.
And probably a little bit more upbeat of us right now.
Well, I'm still in a good mood, but
Well, okay, I'll admit one thing about Saturday though. Like, at least we were out doing something fun and we had a good time. So this bad episode didn't completely wreck my day.
it was probably the low point of the day. But
How funny! A Spike episode's the lowest point of my really spectacular day. But that's a story for another day.
But yeah, okay. I guess we're done.
Yeah.
All right.
See you guys next time.
See you next week. Episode whatever. Who knows?